is just a hand so true, loyal until his friend goes number 2. During the heat of the game, it's clear he's a champ when all else disappears. Rally the team with a wink and a cheer. He's the leader that everyone fears. Quickly, it's a real heater. Once my friend, he's a locker room leader. In the chaos, he's the center, turning us into believers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday night. It is 7 p.m. and we are hot off of the heels of what I felt was a fantastic Saturday night's main event. But how did we get to Saturday night's main event? And even some things happened earlier this afternoon that we can break down here for you. But how did we get to all of this? Ladies and gentlemen, I am OM Dynamic. This is the Locker Room Breakdown. This is your Rasslin recap for the week. A look back at the week that was in the WWE on Raw and SmackDown. And yes, Saturday night's main event. And a look at things to come this week. Bit of a programming note though, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to touch on this now. August 2nd, Sunday night, there will be no Rasslin recap. I will be away on holidays, and the guys will be doing the PLE Patrol for SummerSlam Night 2. As Chris Parrish checking in, saying, Air Parrish says hello. Good evening, Parrish. Again, it was an absolute pleasure this week, having had the opportunity to meet you. Thank you for coming out. I love you, brother. Happy to have met you. Happy to have had you here. Always a blast. And on that note, myself and the LRB, we want to give a shout out to Turnbuckle Studios' very own Bubba Duke on his nuptials yesterday. Yeah, the big man tied the knot, got himself married. Congratulations, Bubba. May you and your beautiful bride, as we've referred to her, Trixie, have a long and happy life together. I love you, brother, and can't wait to have you back, hopefully as a guest on this show. But, ladies and gentlemen, wasn't necessarily a needle-moving week, and I do think Raw was a little bit better than SmackDown. But let's see how it all played out as we kicked off Monday Night Raw and opened this week in WWE with the Beast and his advocate. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Brock Lesnar opened Raw. He and Paul Heyman came out to the ring, flanked by Dallas police. And I was waiting for the standard, they're not here for Brock, they're here to protect you, Oba. But no, in this situation, they were there to protect Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman went on a tangent about Oba's obsession with Brock Lesnar. But also admitted that Brock Lesnar is obsessed with the ruler, Obafemi, and facing him inside Hell in a Cell at SummerSlam. This, ladies and gentlemen, I believe has to really open night 1 or night 2 of SummerSlam. I don't necessarily like the idea of the Hell in a Cell opening the show, but I think for that to try and draw more viewers, it's going to have to. But I also need it to be a little bit longer than the match that they had at WrestleMania and even Clash in Italy. I'm also going to say this because I'm going to draw comparisons in this to Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania during the pandemic. Same with Goldberg and Braun Strowman. It cannot just be 5 to 6 minutes of each guy hitting their finishes on the other. There has to be some extra brutality inside this Hell in a Cell. This has to happen, ladies and gentlemen. But we did find out that Paul Heyman filed for a restraining order against Obafemi. That obsession, because he wanted to protect his own financial well-being ahead of SummerSlam. At this point, Obafemi made his way out to the ring. This, again, Oba and Brock, great chemistry on the mics. I'm still not sold on Obafemi as a headliner or a champ. I think he still needs more time and a little more work against people his size. Brock Lesnar is a great start. I think he should have been doing something with Gunther in the interim. I think that this is where we need to go with a guy like Oba. However, in this situation, Oba came back with something that made a lot of sense, saying, it wouldn't have mattered had I chosen the title since winning the King of the Ring. Brock would have cost me the title match as it is. And I would be walking out of SummerSlam without the title. This was absolutely smart, absolutely brilliant. Do I wish that maybe they would have done this at King of the Ring? Now, in the King of the Ring final, like I said a few weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe there was a right winner or a wrong winner. I don't think there was a right choice in this. I think that both men, Jey Uso and Obafemi, were the wrong decision. But I understand I didn't agree with it. On to our first match. And ladies and gentlemen, I am getting tired of saying this each and every week out here on the show. These Judgment Day rivalries go on way, way too long. They're just recycling old rivalries with new stories. That's all this is. Or a bit of a twist in the story. And in this situation, I am talking about Io Sky and Roxanne Perez. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not a fan of Io Sky, because I am. But again, I don't need her in the position of challenging Liv Morgan. I will sit here and tell you exactly where I think Io Sky should have gone. Now, because of the development that happened on SmackDown this week. And I think that might have been better served. But this was Io Sky versus Roxanne Perez. And again, I am a huge, huge Roxanne Perez guy. This was Dallas in her home state of Texas. And it was botched. Again, WWE, you dropped the ball. If we are going the route of taking the belt off of Liv Morgan to put it on Io Sky, then you need to have Io Sky lose a little bit. Instead, she beats Roxanne Perez in, again, a fantastic women's match. And ladies, keep up the good work. I absolutely love what you guys can do. Love what you girls can do. I'm sorry. But you've got to give the home people the wins in their home. Yes, this match was marred by shenanigans when Liv Morgan came out to cause a distraction. And even Raquel throwing Io Sky into the ring post. But again, this is Io Sky battling the Judgment Day. And I know if Io Sky wins the title at SummerSlam, I've just finished the numbers game against the Judgment Day, which is the same thing we've heard from Rhea Ripley about the Judgment Day. We heard it about her with Jade and B-Fab and Michin when she moved to SmackDown. We've heard CM Punk say it about the Vision. You know, it goes on and on and on. And this is just getting dragged out too long. Yes, after the match, the numbers game did catch up to Io Sky. However, you know, and yes, we had the post-match beatdown between the three of them. Yes, Sol Ruka attempted to come out and make the save, and we know she had just had a title defense of the Intercontinental Championship against Raquel. Are we going to go to Sol and Roxanne next? Because now it is time to maybe take the belt off of Sol. You're keeping her in the same stratosphere as the Judgment Day. And again, another thing that is going to go on too long. I think it might be time to give the belt to somebody, whether it's Raquel or Roxanne, who truly deserves that opportunity. Will we get that tomorrow night? I don't know. Will we get it at SummerSlam? That remains to be seen. You will have to tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for the Raw Patrol with Carl Carafel, Chris Best, myself as I make my return to a regular week of broadcasting, and others. But ladies and gentlemen, we need some new opposition for people like Io Sky. We need new people for the Judgment Day as well. It's just getting played out. It's over. It's done. It's new stories, old rivalries. That's all it is. Then we hear from our new World Tag Team Champions, The Vision. They lost them in London 4 weeks ago. Regained them 2 weeks later when Maxine turned. Last week, this past Monday, we heard The Vision address the situation, and we heard from Maxine. And I got to say this, I absolutely loved the way Maxine handled this promo. Because she is so new to being a heel on Raw, she wasn't sure what to say. Yes, she was tripping over her words because she's not used to hearing the boos. But we also got Tozawa and Otis, the former Alpha Babes, come out and address her. Tozawa said what he said. Otis, again, fumbling over his words, overcome with emotion. We don't know if he was angry, hurt, confused, all of the above. Seemed to be ready to profess his feelings, which was what happened way back when Maxine first got to Otis, or Otis, as she called him then, when she was leading the Maximum Male Models and was trying to bring him in. Theory got on the mic and ridiculed him. Yes, we did get a bit of a beatdown as Otis shoved him out of the way. And as Otis flipped over his words, Theory hit him with the low blow. Maxine grabbed his face and started screaming at him and berating him, saying, if you ever thought that I would go for someone like you, you were sadly mistaken. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I, for a long time, thought Maxine was perhaps the most improved wrestler in the women's division in the past year. We haven't seen her much in the ring since she lost the Women's Intercontinental Championship after holding it very, very briefly. So to really call this her star-making moment, no. It's what she does with this moment, with this time as a heel. Ladies and gentlemen, does this put Maxine back up into a title picture? Can she be the one to go and take the title off of somebody like a Sol Ruca? Or maybe get herself into that upper stratosphere and challenge, whether it's a Liv Morgan and Io Sky, and steal that women's world heavyweight title to bring the women's title to the Vision. Again, ladies and gentlemen, time will tell. I'm going to keep my hopes tempered on this for Maxine, but I really, really hope that this pans out and works in her absolute favor. To see Braun Breaker go in the last 6 months from challenging CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship on the 1-year anniversary of Raw to almost an afterthought in all of this and only carrying the tag team title for the sake of making sure that the Vision have the tag team titles due to Logan Paul's injury. What do we do with Braun Breaker? Again, folks, one of the most divisive wrestlers to come. And this is where I stand. I'm going to say this. In the next couple of years, we are going to hear, let's go, Braun Breaker sucks. Let's go, Braun Breaker sucks. That is my take on where we're going with Braun Breaker as far as being that divisive of a wrestler. And in this case, it's going to be the kids that are not going to like him. It's going to be the grown-ups that love Braun Breaker. But Braun Breaker needs something more to go from being this badass to being. I'll compare him to Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. So hopefully Braun Breaker can pull a Brock Purdy and step out of that shadow of irrelevance. Or maybe go to the island of relevancy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a match that started on SmackDown. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we saw the match last Friday, and I'm not talking 2 days ago, I am talking 9 days ago. Jimmy Uso and Royce Keys. This was Royce Keys' debut match on Monday Night Raw. once again taking on Jimmy Uso. Jimmy had control of the match. And in this case, yes, the numbers game got to him as Jacob Fatu came down as Royce was starting to pick up the pieces. And Jacob, who had begged Royce on the Friday, 9 days ago, to say, leave the OTC out of this. I'm begging you. And didn't want to have anything to do with the fight then between Jimmy and Royce. Came in and laid out his former best friend, his running buddy. As well, laid him out with fists in a steel chair to be interrupted by Solo Sikoa. In fact, Solo has come so far in such a short time. And I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, this is something we did not ever think we would see coming. Solo gets on the mic and tells Jacob to stop. Solo said he was coming home. He was coming back to rejoin the bloodline. Got in the ring, put his one up. Jimmy got alongside him. Jacob on the other side. And the best thing we saw then was as Solo was doing this, he switched the smile and his finger to the thumb and laid his brother out with a Samoan spike. I don't know what it is that has prompted this whole thing between Jimmy and Solo from when Solo kicked Jimmy out of the MFT to now, but there is clearly something that has been brooding for 2+ years, which then had Jacob continue to beat down on Solo. But again, the numbers game took control. And then all of a sudden, L.A. Knight. Yeah. He came out with a chair, the equalizer, and sent Uso and Fatu running. And then, of all things, L.A. Knight gets on the mic and says, Jake, you better go and get main event Jay. I know he ran away tonight. He ain't here. You come and meet us at SummerSlam. Me, I got the big man Royce. And he looked at Solo. Yeah. And even your brother. And we're going to do this 6-man tag at SummerSlam. LA Knight, again, is so remarkably over. Why do they not have him in the Intercontinental title picture? They're keeping him in that same stratosphere, but again, no potential title shot on the horizon. Is this potentially LA Knight's here to win Money in the Bank? No, it's not. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we need to go. Backstage, ladies and gentlemen, we see Paul Heyman again with the Vision saying that was extraordinary, love it. Theory says, so are we back together again? And Paul Heyman looks at him and says, if she is so spectacular, what the hell do you want from me? Where is Paul Heyman's allegiance? We know right now it's to Brock Lesnar. Is he with the Vision? Does he have something cooking with Braun Breaker? Does he have somebody new coming? And I will touch on that because we got a vignette last Monday for August 3rd about a 7-footer from New York who is returning. Oh, and that man is 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we got the big cast vignette last Monday night. And that is very, very intriguing. We thought that after what had happened on SmackDown with the return of Baron Corbin, that might be where they go for Danhausen. But I've got to wonder, is Paul Heyman the guy maybe bringing in Big Cass? Is that his new big man? Does Paul Heyman have an allegiance with Obafemi for after SummerSlam? We've heard Paul Heyman refer to himself as the wise man again a few weeks ago. Does he have something cooking within the bloodline? Ladies and gentlemen, a lot to unpack here. But ladies and gentlemen, we will continue along with this review portion of Monday Night Raw here in just a moment. But first, we could use your help here at Turnbuckle Studios.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, video games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Turnbuckle Studios is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, and we want you to join us. So if you have ever wanted your break in podcasting, content creation, or to help us out behind the scenes, hit the join button. Send us your credentials. Tell us how you believe you can help us, how you feel we can help you. We will sit down as a collective and find the right fit. All of that and so much more at turnbucklestudios.org. So what I felt was perhaps the most disregarded moment of the of the previous 2 weeks, because in London we saw, after Lyra and Bayley losing their tag team championship opportunity, we saw Lyra snap. We got a video package the week before. 2 weeks ago now on Raw, we got a video package from Bayley. Now we finally get the face-to-face in the ring. Last week I said that they should have had Bayley come out and make that call out and Lyra just no-show. But no, we get video packages. This week we get that face-to-face. And I've got to say this, I am absolutely loving Lyra's new look. This sort of exiled, anxious, twisted, lost soul. She came out when Bayley asked her to come out and dragged her through the mud. Even going so far as to calling her the weakest of the 4 horsewomen. And even admitted that every compliment she had paid her previously was a lie. And we had seen Lyra stand by Bayley when Bayley was calling her an idiot. And Bayley was going through this character cycle where Bayley didn't know who or what she was. At that point, Bailey said, well, I'm going to see you at Madison Square Garden because we're going to do this at Saturday night's main event. I spoke to Adam Pearce. This was a short segment, and I'm okay with that. Yes, Lyra got to say everything she needed to say as that true heel. Bailey, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to fight. We're going to settle it. We will discuss what happened in that match at Saturday night's main event later on. But again, this resulted in physicality as Lyra did attack Bailey. You know what? The best comparison, and I'm just reading it here, but Corey Graves said she looked like a sea hag. No, I'm going to say it. She looked like Samara from the movie The Ring, coming out of the well after 7 days. That is the feeling I get from Lyra. And like I said, we are going to discuss Lyra a little bit more, a little bit later on. And I'm looking forward to having that talk with all of you. We had then what I believe should have been our main event match of the night, which was a 7-person gauntlet between Dominic Mysterio, Joe Hendry, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, Rusev, Ethan Page, and Chad Gable, with the winner to challenge Penta at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, you know you're going to Minnesota, so it makes sense. You're going to Minnesota, you've got Chad Gable on this redemption arc, so it would make sense for Chad to win it, which he did. But how did we get there? We started off with Dominic Mysterio defeating Joe Hendry for then Javon Evans to take out Dom. And no, Danhausen did not get involved to cost Dom. But that would have made more sense. Javon Evans, again, I'm really, really worried about his control in the ring. He's got the crowd eaten out of the palm of his hands, but he's got to learn how to control himself, control his body, and the fluidity. Dragon Lee came out afterwards, and again, fantastic between him and Javon. Javon was the only guy to go through 2 people, as he picked up the victory over Dragon Lee as well, for then Rusev to come out and really clamp it down. This was where I think we should have gone with Ethan Page as the next and have Chad Gable come out last. But we had Chad Gable come out next, who eliminated Rusev. And again, this was something really interesting because you could have had Rusev win and have Ethan Page come out last and really had that whole thing blow up. Or they could have said, well, you know what? It's the 2 of us. Let's go take out Penta together. But Ethan Page was the last out, and again, he ended up tapping to the ankle lock. But, I mean, again, with Dominic Mysterio, you could have had JD help him cost Joe Hendry. You could have had Danhausen cost him. there was so many more different routes that Dom can go instead of whatever they've got him in right now. Because right now, as much as I love Dom, what they have done with his character, he's carrying the AAA Mega Championship, and yes, I know he's doing a lot of work there, which as the champion and trying to build for Triple Mania is huge. But now for me, Dom's character work, Dom's character itself has gotten stagnant on Raw, and we need something to change that for Dirty Dominic Mysterio. And lastly, and again, something else we're going to discuss again a little bit later on, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins sit down for the contract signing for their match at SummerSlam. There are certainties in life: death, taxes, and Seth Rollins beating Roman Reigns one-on-one every time. That quote direct from Seth Rollins. But Roman countered, caused Seth to snap, referring to him as number 2 because, of course, we all know, we acknowledge the OTC, the original, the one tribal chief. And even referencing Triple H, calling him Seth's work daddy. And that can't even get the job done for Seth. I don't think this was long-winded. I don't even think it was drawn out. But just once, ladies and gentlemen, can we get a contract signing that doesn't actually break down into physicality? We've seen it before and it doesn't happen often. But can we get one of those contract signings again, please? Will Seth Rollins beat Roman at SummerSlam? Is this where Jacob makes his ulterior move? After that, is this where Jay makes an ulterior move? Does Solo cost him? Again, there are a lot of moving parts. Is Seth Rollins working on a new vision? If Paul Heyman is out with the vision, is Seth Rollins back in? A lot to unpack here, ladies and gentlemen. Different questions to break down. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the review of Monday Night Raw. I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you a very, very quick preview on what I think could happen tomorrow night. But first, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard of WWE Shop. Well, how about Turnbuckle Studios Shop?
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
And ladies and gentlemen, once again, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. And please, please, check out our merch shop. Support your favorite shows and your favorite podcasters. Wear what we wear. The site is powered by redbubble.com. It is 100% safe and secure. And when you make that purchase, ladies and gentlemen, tag us on the socials. Show us what you bought. And we'll give you a shout out live right here on air during one or more of our weekly programming. Ladies and gentlemen, they have not announced anything for Monday Night Raw officially as of yet. I'm seeing some appearances. No matches announced, but we will hear from Seth Rollins, Obafemi, Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Sol Ruka, Penta, and so many more. We will have the fallout from Saturday night's main event. Will we hear or see something from Bayley? I'm sure we're going to hear from Lyra Valkyria, and we'll discuss that in a little while. What do we hear from the Vision? Do we see them in action? Do we see the Street Profits come back? Do we get a new direction on anything? Ladies and gentlemen, the only way to be in the know is to tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Netflix and 8 p.m. right here with Turnbuckle Studios and the Raw Patrol. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come again. I'm going to quickly switch gears here and move to SmackDown. That's Saturday night's main event. We want SmackDown results from before Saturday night's main event. We open things up with Gunther starting the show, as we also saw the return of Baron Corbin, but we had Gunther start the show, and he was fired up, PO'd, whatever you want to call it. And he addressed attacking Nick Aldis last week and accused Nick Aldis of mistreating him. This is the part that irritates me, ladies and gentlemen, because Adam Pearce came out. It had been announced earlier on Friday that Nick Aldis had been removed permanently as the GM of SmackDown. What does not make sense to me in this entire scenario, 2 weeks earlier, we had seen that situation after Night of Champions unfold, which saw Nick Aldis placed on leave. He showed up to Raw, again, not this past Monday, the previous Monday, where he was the one who, on leave, got CM Punk and made the match for CM Punk and Sami Zayn for the title. A week ago, yes, 9 days ago, he's back in charge on SmackDown. And now all of a sudden, Adam Pearce is back and Nick Aldis has been removed. What was the absolute point in any of that? What was the point in putting Nick Aldis on leave if you're just going to remove him without a clear contingency plan in place? You remove him for a week, put him back on the next show, then put him back for his show, and then permanently remove him a week later. This makes absolutely zero sense to me. This was complete and utter BS as far as things with Nick Aldis go. But yes, Adam Pearce came out and interrupted Gunther and told him, had you waited, had you not done what you did, Nick was going to tell you that if you and Sammy win your match at Saturday night's main event, you two will be added to the championship match at SummerSlam, making it a fatal four-way. But Adam Pearce also told Gunther that if you would have done that on Raw, you would have been fired. This put a smile on Gunther's face, but Cody Rhodes came out and laid the proverbial smackdown on the ring general Gunther, saying, you hit me, threw me into a car, hit me in the head. You think when I saw you it wasn't going to be on site? You and me tonight. And Pierce made that official. So we ended up with a main event of Cody Rhodes versus Gunther on Friday Night SmackDown. Just one night before the tag team match at Saturday night's main event, and a couple of weeks away from SummerSlam. Was this Cody trying his best to be 100%, or is this Cody, again, biting off more than he can chew and allowing his focus to go elsewhere instead of where it needs to be, and that is on CM Punk and that WWE Undisputed Championship? Personally, I don't think Cody will be coming out of SummerSlam a 4-time champion, but I would not be surprised to see Cody coming out of SummerSlam being booed out of the building. After this segment, we got a video package from Adam Pearce stating and talking about Rhea Ripley, the Women's WWE Championship, and her torn meniscus, saying she is doing everything she can to get back and defend this title, but just due to the uncertainty of it, she will miss SummerSlam and not be able to defend the title. Therefore, over the next 2 weeks, we are going to have qualifying matches and have a 5-woman ladder match at SummerSlam to determine an interim champion. And when Rhea is back, the two of them will face off to fight for the title. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I believe we need Io Sky. Not challenging Liv Morgan. I don't like that idea. I didn't want Io versus Liv. This now would actually be a place for Io to really showcase what she can do. And I think that this match would have been far better suited. And then, yes, I know we probably don't want to see it, but then you could go back to Io and Rhea with the winner take all, title for title. And that can take my money 8 days a week. This, yes, we all know what this is. This is what is known, ladies and gentlemen, as too sweet. There was nothing sweet about what happened with Finn Balor and Tala Tonga. We know that 2 weeks ago, Tama Tonga and Tala Tonga laid out Finn Balor in the back, and Tama said, I spoke to the elders. They told me to cut ties with my past. We saw Finn defeat Tama the week before. Now he got his hands on Tala. This didn't do any favors for Tala Tonga. Tala had really, really gained some of my respect and appreciation over the last year. This took me back to seeing him really as that tall, scrawny guy getting outworked each and every night. Finn Balor picked up the win with the coup de grace. It was a decent match back and forth, but nothing to typically write home about. This was a standard match. I don't think it elevated Finn. I don't think it hindered or helped either man, to be honest. But where do you go with this? Because after the match, we saw Tama standing with his brother. They could have very easily done the predictable thing and jumped Finn Balor. Because who's going to come and save Finn? There's really not a lot of people that know or trust him on SmackDown. So, what do you do in that situation? Is this over now between Tamatella and Finn? Do they tell Finn to go and find a partner? Finn needs and deserves better. The Tongans deserve better. But we do have to ask, who are these elders? Could it be their father? Could we see the return of Haku to come out and lead them? I, for one, would be all for it. But, again, do you turn them back to, do you make them the new Tongan twins? Do you just call them the Tongas? Like, this, there's needs to be a direction for them. And I said this when they made the MFTs that dominant faction, eliminating the Wyatts and really getting the Wyatts released. Then all of a sudden, JC and Tongaloa are let go. And then they break away from Solo and completely disrupt the MFT's rhythm. What is there for them? Is this a time? Do the Tongans need a change of scenery? Do they need a breath of fresh air? You can't move them to Raw because they've just come out of everything with Solo and the Bloodline. If you're going to keep them heel or put them into the position of challenging for the tag team championships, you need something with absolute direction for them. They're too good for NXT, but they could go down there and offer guidance. But we did get another tag team match a little bit later on that night, and I could see this becoming an interesting feud for the Tongans. But we'll get to that. I mentioned we had qualifiers for a ladder match. Folks, again, did WWE drop the ball with our first qualifying match for the women's interim WWE Championship as Tiffany Stratton battled JC Jane? JC came out with Fatal Influence, and they did start the beatdown on Tiffany before the bell even rang. And I loved it. This should have been what did it. Put JC Jane in the ladder match. But we got aid from Brie Bella and Paige, who fought off Fallon and Laney Reed, allowing this match to proceed 1-on-1. What is WWE doing with Fatal Influence? this was a situation you could have had JC very easily go to the Queen of the Ring finals, even had she lost. No, we couldn't do that. We've had to wait and wait and wait. We knew that Fatal Influence were going to challenge Brie and Paige at Saturday night's main event, and we're going to cover that in just a brief period here, folks. But you've got Tiffany Stratton as your U.S. champion. And we know that JC Jane and Fatal Influence made an impact on the women's tag champs. They made an impact on Rhea Ripley. So wouldn't it make sense to have JC Jane qualify for this ladder match and go to that potential move and really shake the women's division? No, Tiffany Stratton wins the match, and now the U.S. Championship cannot be defended at SummerSlam because the Women's U.S. Champion is in a ladder match for the interim world title. Unless you're going to open the show that night and vacate the Women's U.S. Championship, but then who do you make that match between at SummerSlam? Ladies and gentlemen, this boggles my mind. After this, we heard in a video package. What is with video packages in the last 4 months? Finn Balor was big for them. And I mean, even going back, WrestleMania. Finn Balor, Bayley and Lyra, Baron Corbin, and countless others in these video packages. No, ladies and gentlemen, we need them to actually come out to the ring and make these things. I know the video packages are easier to air, and then you don't have to worry about the interruption. But then we go to Trick Williams in the back as well. But who's running his mouth, and he got interrupted by Carmelo Hayes. And they continued to berate each other. But I also think that this is where we're going to lead back to the Trick Mello gang. And I do think, as much as I want to see Carmelo Hayes get that U.S. title back, because really, it's a prop piece for Trick Willie. And he doesn't know who he is on the main roster at this point. So, I'm going to say this. When we get Trick Williams versus Baron Corbin, let's get the title to Baron Corbin. But we go to our next Women's Interim WWE Championship ladder match qualifier between Jade Cargill and Nia Jax. And this is something that we have seen at various points throughout Jade's tenure here. When Jade made her Rumble debut, she picked up Nia and was able to dump her over the top rope and eliminate her. So we had this battle of powerhouses that went nowhere. This is something, again, that you can build to, ladies and gentlemen. But the match barely got started when Charlotte Flair hit the ring and took Jade out with a steel chair. Now, I understand she's getting revenge for her friend. She's protecting her friend who was taken out and injured at the hands of Jade, B-Fab, and Michin the week before. But really, we could have gone to Jade and Charlotte at SummerSlam. No, we had to do this. Now we've got this. Now, Nia did attack Charlotte from behind because she cost her the match because Jade won via DQ and qualified for the ladder match. And then she left the ring, allowing Jade to lay out Charlotte even more. This did absolutely nothing for me, ladies and gentlemen. This was a waste of airtime. You want my thoughts? Why didn't we just make Charlotte and Jade for that interim world championship? Jade was the former champ. Charlotte, her friend is injured. Charlotte is the queen and has not pushed herself to that spot. This would have been an ideal position for that. But no, we've got Jade in there. This is BS, in my opinion, folks. Backstage, we saw Candice LeRae pushing the crate with Johnny Gargano. I can't remember who interrupted her. But then after that was done, Candice gets laid out and attacked by Blake Monroe in the back. What is with all of these people who are hyped up, built up to be coming up to the main roster, and what are we doing with them? Blake Monroe spent weeks doing vignettes, including one backstage segment with Chelsea Green. Back to vignettes. Now this. I believe Blake has had one match on SmackDown. What the hell has happened to Jordan Grace, folks? Candice LeRae, again, I said this earlier. Why isn't she getting in the ring? She could very easily qualify for that women's match. She could be contesting for that U.S. championship. But no, we've got her being the devoted wife, pushing her disparaged husband around on a cart. There is so much we can do. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this. This is that conflict between having to go 3 hours for 6 months, 2 hours for 6 months. Can we get that happy medium at about 2.5 hours like they did for Raw? Come on, folks. This is better. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, that is USA Network in the States doing that. But that is what we truly, truly need. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned a tag team for the Tongans to take on, and we're going to hear about them here and now as Fraxium, who over the previous couple of weeks had taken on Ray Phoenix, the AAA Cruiserweight Champion. Now they took on the AAA Tag Team Champions, the War Raiders. I do believe this was a non-title match. This is what these two teams have been relegated to. Fraxium, who could have very, very easily been your tag team champions, and I believe they need a change of scenery. I think they need the opportunity to come to Raw and get themselves into a tag team title picture. We're waiting for the War Raiders to go one-on-one in a tag match with Damian Priest and R-Truth, title for title. I'm going to assume now that that is going to happen at SummerSlam, and we will find out. I'm hoping this week. This was perhaps the best match on the night to this point. Yes, the War Raiders picked up the win, but both teams were able to tell the story, do what they do best, and really give the fans what they want. It is a shame that the War Raiders have been reduced. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to say it, reduced to where they are on the main roster. AAA Tag Team Champions, that is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Do not get me wrong, and I'm not going to take anything away from AAA. But this was a team you could have had fighting with the Vision on Raw. This was a team that could, again, we're waiting for that match with them and Priest and Truth. This is a team you could have had facing the Usos. There is so many different things you could have done with these teams, folks. And yet, WWE continues to drop the ball on some of their best. And ladies and gentlemen, our main event of the evening, Cody Rhodes versus Gunther one-on-one. As Cody was getting ready for his match, he came face to face with CM Punk, who said, "I'm going to watch your back. I'm coming out." Cody said, "I appreciate that, but if you're going to watch the match, you're going to stay here and watch it on this monitor in my locker room." But as Gunther made his entrance, Cody jumped the gun. Not something we typically see out of the babyface, but we knew that he had said it earlier in the night. It was on sight. This was chaos. This was anarchy. Finally, they get to the ring. And Gunther starts to control the match. Cody begins his fight back. It's your typical, yeah, boo, heel dominates. Babyface begins to fight back. A little bit later on, CM Punk comes out to cheer on his tag team partner for Saturday night's main event, his friend, and offer his support. Yes, he and Cody are opponents at SummerSlam. But then from out of nowhere, Gunther's partner for Saturday night's main event, Sami Zayn, shows up and jumps CM Punk from behind at ringside. All hell breaks loose, and we did not get a conclusive finish. We saw Cody and Gunther in the first ever Crown Jewel championship match. Both Cody and Gunther have been a king of the ring. Cody just recently fought Gunther as well, if I'm not mistaken. But this was the first time televised and not on a PLE that Cody and Gunther went one-on-one. But this match did end up getting thrown out as everybody as everybody got involved in this match. Again, ladies and gentlemen, CM Punk, I'm going to say this, should not be your undisputed WWE champion. Nick Aldis was on indefinite leave or administrative leave and made that match on Raw for CM Punk to face Sami Zayn. That match should have been overturned and thrown out by people above Adam Pearce. Especially because then you brought him back for 1 week. He congratulated and brought out that he negotiated getting CM Punk to SmackDown. And then you fired him. That match, that title should be vacated and being held. And yes, you could have that fatal four-way. You could have a fatal four-way elimination. You could do a gauntlet. You could do whatever you want at SummerSlam and give yourselves the right champion. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my take. But after this is all said and done, Jackie Redmond catches up with Danhausen in his lab. And she's interviewing him when he opens a crate and there's a black cat. But she says that's just a stuffed animal. Yes, but that makes Danhausen much cooler now. And he did something, and he said, if you want to be uncursed, I suggest we run. They ran in opposite directions. Danhausen came running back, grabbed the black cat, stuffed black cat in the crate, and ran out following Jackie. But what did that actually mean? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll tell you here in just a few minutes. But first, we're going to come back and preview what is going to happen this coming week on SmackDown, as well as what happened this afternoon. Actually, there's one piece I've got to leave, but you know what? We're going to come back with the SmackDown preview after we review Saturday night's main event, ladies and gentlemen. But first, I do need you to take a look at all of the amazing programming for you here throughout the week at Turnbuckle Studios.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday night, we are on call as the Raw Patrol is on duty at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday, we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursdays, let us power your dreams with the Xbox Showcase at 9 p.m. Friday, we invite you to come for a ride with the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday, be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later in the day, the Locker Room presents Rasslin Recap delivers at 7 p.m. Always be aware that weekend shows can vary in times, as the PLE Patrol and other watch party streams are always a must-see. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day and watch all of the latest episodes on turnbucklestudios.org/shows. And please do not forget to drop a like, follow, and to subscribe to all of our channels, and when the time is right, all you have to do is tap in.
And ladies and gentlemen, once again, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. And as you just saw, there is something for you each and every night of the week here live. And that can all be found under shows, but we want you to meet the teams behind those shows. The newly married Bubba Duke, Chris Best, Chris Parrish, Logan Thompson, myself, and of course, the Godfather, Carl Carafel. Click on our individual links to get our socials and watch our latest weekly live episodic shows. All of that and more at turnbucklestudios.org. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to now touch on what happened at Saturday night's main event and what I thought was a fantastic show. We started off with our women's tag team championship match, and most of us here had picked Fatal Influence. Yes, Lainey Reed and Fallon Henley were challenging Paige and Brie Bella for the women's tag team championships. We had all picked Fatal Influence to win, and we were not disappointed. Fatal Influence did win due to a distraction and a sneak attack. But yes, Fatal Influence are your new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And that now means that with those titles being defended across all brands, that Fatal Influence can just as easily show up tomorrow on Raw as they can on SmackDown. I love it. What do we get here and now for Fatal Influence? This is absolutely huge. And don't get me wrong, because I am a fan of Paige and Brie. And they were doing a lot more in the ring and putting those titles on the line. They were fighting champions. 100% full props to them. They actually put some credibility on those women's tag team titles. Now, I just hope that Fatal Influence can live up to that mark and that we can get some good title matches. Who do we see step up to take on Fatal Influence next? Who knows? Is it time to potentially add another female member to the Vision for her and Maxine to challenge? I don't think we go to the route of the Judgment Day unless you're going to go to a fatal four-way or more match, because you're not going to have a heel team versus a heel team in a straight-up tag. This is going to have to be a fatal four-way match or a triple threat for this to happen. Same thing. But what does Raw have to offer us as far as female tag teams? Not a whole lot. Is it time for maybe somebody else or two women to say, hey, it's time to put our differences aside? What team can challenge Fatal Influence? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if we're going to hear from Fatal Influence tomorrow, but we will have to wait and see. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, Lainey Reed, Fallon Henley are your new tag team champions, and Fatal Influence can now travel to every show. No disqualification match, JD McDonough and Danhausen. This was a monumental match for Danhausen. His first match in Madison Square Garden, his first appearance in Madison Square Garden since he uncursed the Knicks and led them to that NBA championship. This match was back and forth. Dominic Mysterio did accompany JD to the ring, wearing Danhausen's Knicks jersey and using it to wipe his shoes, all of that. But at one point, Danhausen, because it was no DQ, no countout, Danhausen ran back to the top of the stage where he had his cloning machine, which did go off. And yes, we got 3 more mini Hausens who went and took it to Dom and JD down at ringside. But then we also got the reveal of the Black Cat, member of the New York Knicks, Carl Anthony Towns. And he came out and he delivered choke slams to JD and to Dom, allowing Danhausen to pick up the victory in New York City, in Madison Square Garden. I loved it, ladies and gentlemen, because you were able to bridge the gap between the Knicks championship run and Danhausen. You were able to bridge that story and have it come full circle. Absolutely loved the story, loved the psychology behind all of this. This was a fantastic moment. And perhaps a top moment of the year. But that may also have happened a little bit later on in the night. Our next match was perhaps the match I had been looking forward to the most at Saturday night's main event. Lyra Valkyria, who I'm going to refer to now as Samara, versus Bailey. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we've needed from Lyra Valkyria. From heavier and darker entrance music. Yes, new entrance music still in the same theme, but heavier, darker. Lyra didn't come out clapping. She didn't come out any of that. She was aggressive. She was tenacious. She was all over Bailey. She fought tooth and nail. Bailey fought back. This was a fantastic, fantastic match. And Lyra picked up the victory with a new submission finish as she added a bulldog choke. And yes, Bailey passed out. Bailey did not tap out. But it's what happened after the match. Now, I had said going into this, I was wondering if we were going to get Tatum Paxley interference on behalf of her friend in Lyra. And do we get, in Madison Square Garden, do we get the return of AJ Lee to come and side with Bailey? Again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot to unpack. But we didn't get either of that. But Lyra continued to put it to Bailey, including hitting her with the Nightwing on the outside on the steel steps. And continuing to apply more pressure after the match was over with that bulldog choke. Like I said, laying her out, beating her down, and leaving Bailey in a heap. This is what we need from Lyra. Is this the finality to Bailey and Lyra? Hell no. But for now, I think it should be. For now, I mentioned this with Io Sky earlier, but maybe this is the place where you put Lyra Valkyria into that interim women's WWE Championship ladder match, and you give her that push. Lyra versus Rhea with title for title. Sign me the hell up. I will take that match 8 days a week. Then we got a huge announcement for Madison Square Garden in April. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in April. And I am going to talk to you about WrestleMania weekend. Because WrestleMania weekend, we all know WrestleMania is coming to us from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But they announced for that same weekend, AAA eternal glory at MSG, as well as NXT Stand and Deliver at MSG. Ladies and gentlemen, I absolutely love this. And again, I wonder if you do the Hall of Fame a little bit beforehand, or do you do the Hall of Fame at MSG this year before Stand and Deliver? That would be brilliant. I love that idea, folks. This was a discussion we had yesterday at Bubba's reception. I think that would be monumental. Then you're not trying to overwhelm it into WrestleMania. But you're now running WrestleMania on 2 days, and then another PLE from each brand, from AAA and from NXT. That same weekend, I love it. Yes, again, very, very busy weekend, but I love this idea. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our Tag Team Championship main event match of the night. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, the opponents at SummerSlam for the undisputed WWE Championship, taking on two guys who could be added to the match if they were successful in picking up a victory last night. I'm talking of Sami Zayn and Gunther. And again, this started with friendly bickering in Gorilla between Cody and Punk. And Punk saying, I said I'll go out with you. After Cody asked who's going out first, Cody's music hits. Cody makes his way to the ring. CM Punk makes his way to the ring. Sammy makes his way to the ring. Gunther makes his way to the ring. You get your standard tag team match, and this was a great match. Do not get me wrong. And even at one point, Gunther had Cody laid out. He decked him with the belt, but Charles Robinson had taken the bump. Charles had taken the bump after Sammy pushed Punk on top of the cover to break it up. Gunther used the title to blast Cody, hit the power bomb. New ref comes out, 1, 2, and he's pulled out of the ring. Nick Aldis was hiding beside the ring and holding the title. And as Gunther saw him, Aldis went up and blasted him with the title, allowing Cody and Punk to pick up the victory, keeping their match at SummerSlam 1-on-1. What would this mean? We've been hearing the speculation, and something happened earlier today, but there's one more segment from Saturday night's main event that we have to talk about, and we will preview SmackDown and as well what happened today. And this next segment was huge. Roman Reigns appearing on Saturday night's main event in MSG. The marquee arena for WWE, a marquee show. And yes, Roman Reigns even asked for a very special guest, NBA Finals MVP and Knicks captain, Jalen Brunson. We saw Jalen Brunson arriving in the Escalade, coming through the arena, getting the shout outs, getting his stats and everything announced by the PA announcer, and meeting Roman at the entrance, where they both walked out together to the OTC's music. Roman holding up the title, Jalen holding up the one. And they went out to the ring. And Roman talked about it, saying, you know, I'm the OTC, you're the captain. This is a team sport. But you know what? I pulled some strings. He presented Jalen Brunson with a beautiful new title. Nick side plates, all of it, the blue strap. It was a beautiful, beautiful title. Talked about the history in MSG, talked about all of that. And then finally, we got to Madison Square Garden. Acknowledge us. Yes, Roman put it above himself. Roman with the true babyface move in all of this. And then, yes, we heard the familiar refrains, burn it down. And Seth Rollins, of course, music hits. And they're watching, they're waiting. And out comes Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers with a steel chair. But no sign of Seth Rollins, who did sneak in the back door, laid out. Roman Reigns looked like he was going to go for a stomp. Went for a kick to the head anyways. Then as he lined himself up in the corner, Jalen Brunson stepped in front of Roman to protect him. Seth telling him, no, get out of the way, come on. Tyrese had not gotten in the ring. And after a couple of minutes, all of a sudden, from the corner of your eye, Roman hits the Superman punch. They hit the spear. Seth and Tyrese Halliburton are taken out, sent to the back. Roman then asks Jalen Brunson to hold his title and puts the new one on to Jalen Brunson. Excuse me one moment, folks. I apologize for that, folks. But that was the breakdown. Now, I will give you a preview of SmackDown as well as what happened here this afternoon. But first, one more commercial break for you.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, videos games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday night, we are on call as the Raw Patrol is on duty at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday, we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursdays, let us power your dreams with the Xbox Showcase at 9 p.m. Friday, we invite you to come for a ride with the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday, be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later in the day, the Locker Room presents Rasslin Recap delivers at 7 p.m. Always be aware that weekend shows can vary in times, as the PLE Patrol and other watch party streams are always a must-see. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day, and watch all of the latest episodes on turnbucklestudios.org/shows. And please do not forget to drop a like, follow, and to subscribe to all of our channels, and when the time is right, all you have to do is tap in.
And ladies and gentlemen, once again, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. And there is everything you need. How to join us. Head over to our shop. And please check out all of our weekly programming. And please come and meet the team. We would love to interact with you on all of our socials as well. Turnbucklestudios.org, ladies and gentlemen, your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. So, this coming Friday on SmackDown, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to hear from Fatal Influence. Whether we hear from them tomorrow or not, I don't know. We are going to hear from CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, whether it's a face-to-face, whether it's a contract signing, whatever the situation. We get another qualifier for the women's ladder match as Nia Jax gets a chance at redemption, as she will face Charlotte Flair. Does Nia go in, or does Charlotte go in and then her and Jade are just going to take each other out of the ladder match anyways? That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. Nia should not be getting another shot in this ladder match, even though she was disqualified, but she still lost the match. Again, this is where we could use this new Lyra Valkyria. This is where we could use Io Sky, and I think that would be a lot bigger, a lot bolder a move than Charlotte and Jade. And you could move them to a one-on-one match at SummerSlam. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Aldis and Gunther. Something happened this afternoon, Sunday, July 19th, at the SummerSlam kickoff. And Nick Aldis and Gunther got into it, saying, you wanted a fight, now you've got it. At SummerSlam, it's on. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we got the official announcement this afternoon. Gunther versus Nick Aldis at SummerSlam. Are we going to get the National Treasure, Nick Aldis? Are we going to get Magnus? What version of Nick are we getting? But we are going to hear from both of those men on SmackDown as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a good week in the WWE. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, on a programming note, 2 weeks from now, Sunday, August 2nd, the Rasslin Recap will not be here, as the guys will be doing the PLE Patrol for SummerSlam Night 2, and I will be on holiday. So, ladies and gentlemen, from all of us here at the Locker Room and Turnbuckle Studios, we would love to remind you always that the world is better with you in it. From all of us here to those of you out there, wherever you are, good night, good luck. I'm out.
of the game is clear. He's a champ when all else disappears. Rally the team with a weekend of cheer.